Oh, there we go. All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host today, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, broadcasting you from beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm gonna make sure I mute this other window, otherwise we're gonna have an echo. Anyway, today we're gonna continue our discussion of The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Today we're gonna be in chapter 5. But before we get going with chapter 5, I know last week we mentioned that we were all going to kind of look over these questions from chapter 4 and dig in a little deeper in ourselves to see what comes up for us. And but before we do that, I'm going to have my friends introduce themselves, and then Catherine, you can take it from there and get our conversation going, and then go from there. Okay, jump out, guys.
Lori Emmons in Denver.
Angel Studebaker down here in South Carolina.
Jason Roberts here in Tampa, Florida.
Chris, Nevada.
Good morning, it's Catherine Clement, and we'll just review a little bit of last week's. So he gave us 4 questions to ponder. These are questions to help take us into our genius zone. So the first one was, what do I most love to do? I love it so much I can do it for long stretches of time without getting tired or bored. So did anybody ponder this question? What do I most love to do?
I think I tried, but then I ended up getting busy because I'll be honest, when I'm in between Ubering, I have some time to think sometimes, and that's when I do a lot of my praying and stuff and things and stuff like that. And I did try to think about it, but I really couldn't pinpoint one thing because I'm not really sure what it is. I really, truly, I love music. I know that, but from there, I'm not sure what part of, because I played the violin before, but that was years ago. I love doing that, but I don't know if I could do that hours on end. So I kind of started, but didn't get very far.
I did. I thought about it a lot. I just want to have a big but we were talking about. Yeah, but I really enjoy being out in nature, and I like creating things. I like to think I'm artistic, and MS kind of really put a kink in all of it, so I kind of got stumped with it.
Yeah, maybe I kind of felt or was sensing the kind of the same things. Some of the things that I feel like I love to do for long periods of time, either I'm no longer able to, or they've kind of been jaded in a way for me to where now I have resistance towards them or whatever. So, but I think like I would say interacting in like strategies exercises, or doing like strategy games or things like that where I'm having to solve a unique puzzle or come up with a unique solution. I think sometimes that is both rewarding at the end, and also I also not only kind of lose myself in it while I'm doing it, but then also I find myself revisiting it after the fact in my mind. So it must be something that I enjoy.
Isn't it interesting how each of everybody, including myself, when we answer this question, we can't just answer the question. Like we answer the question, and then we throw all these qualifiers, all these OLPs on top of it. You know, we can't just answer the question, what do I most love to do? It's like, what do I most love to do? If I could still do it, if I had the money to do it, if this, if, you know what I mean? Like, I find that very interesting. What do I most love to do? I guess it would be create things, because I'm an artist and I like to create things. Like I can get, I don't know how many images I have on my phone. Like I have, and my computers are so stocked full of images and things. I love looking at beautiful scenery, and like photography is probably something that I should have studied a little more, and I still can. I mean, it's not like I can't learn something new at this point, but I love, one of my qualifiers that came in, I love being around horses, but because of some of my physical stuff, that qualifier immediately kicked in. But can't do that anymore. But so I just find it real curious that we can't even answer simple questions without throwing our OLPs in. If we ever had a question, if we had an OLP, I think we can safely say that we do.
I definitely had big OPs because I love nature and I could spend all day out there. I like to find things out there. It's about this is what I came up with, that it's my perspective on things, and always qualifying, yeah, well, that's not going to pay the bills, and yeah, but can't do that anymore.
Interesting that both you and Lori brought that, our big butts into it, so to speak. Because as both you were talking, and you were talking about nature, that got me to thinking that just recently I was talking with a friend, and got to talking about me love living here and stuff, because I love the heat. I love how, but yet I miss having 4 seasons like I did when I was back home in Spokane, Washington, and not missing the snow so much and the cold and all that. But my favorite time of year is the fall, and I love getting lost in the fall colors and being out in the leaves and the trees. And what was it, in 2021 when me and a friend tried to go up to Bryce Canyon here in Utah. The first time we went like in March, and it was like springtime, but a snowstorm came through, and that kind of ruined our plans for where we ultimately wanted to go. But we went down to the southern part of Utah, which I fell in love with, which was beautiful and had some of the earth tones in the land and stuff, which I fell in love with. I just absolutely. And then, but getting back to the original part, was then in September, we were able to go back and do our plan. But at that time, things were starting to change. And I was out in absolute heaven. I felt in an element that just, it recharged me. I just felt so recharged and so re-energized. And so I could have just stayed there forever, just being in that scenery. And I think if I could find something I love doing within that and being within that realm, I would really be in an area that could really energize me and give me, I think, ideas, and things would flow so much easier. But it's funny, I didn't even really think that or go there. But now after what you two were saying, it made me think about that. And it's like, I could get lost up there, just being in the colors and the warmth of those colors and stuff, even though it's cooler, but not winter. I will gladly say not winter, but the cooler, and you got your layers, and you're out, and I'm shuffling in the leaves that have fallen on the ground, and the colors are all around me, the golds, the ambers, the burnt oranges. I love that, and I brought those colors into my dining room a little bit in my bedroom, but I would love more. So interesting how nature of that. And I could see, just finding something that would maybe deal with that along with my love of music or something.
I'm very easily, I looked out my window and saw a parade of animals on this branch that had snow and everything on it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I got sound. I need to find the technology, a photo editor or whatever, that I can do the outline. There's a moose, and then it was a pig, and then whatever, it was on the branch. And I just love that kind of thing, finding something in nature and creating something artistic with it. Loved it, Catherine. You're just, it's just a different perspective how I see things. And I love people and music too, but it's not going to pay the bills.
Yeah, I wish that in like high school or even middle school, we had like a class that would be all about figuring out answering these questions for ourselves, so that we could go into our adult life already having an idea and then working on creating a life around those things. And that would be so cool. I think about this. I thought about this question a lot too, and the first thing that came up for me when I first asked myself this question is, it's funny because I had just been organizing my garage, which was all a whole bunch of stuff we just shoved in the garage when we moved here. And I was organizing it, and I was just kind of like in my element, going through things, organizing this and that and other and whatever. And when I asked myself that question, I was like, oh, well, that was something that you just went and you did, and you could have done it for hours. And when I was working in retail, and I was the one that was in charge of a particular department, organizing everything and where it went was like something that just was easy for me, and I enjoyed doing it. And so I'm like, what if I had known, I don't know, back earlier on. It's like now I've got a business, I've got family, grandchildren, all these responsibilities, and it's the but, it's the but. I would do this, but yet at the same time, I'm like, what exactly would I do? I have no idea. And but yet on another note, you guys have been talking about being out in nature, and I could just live in nature. And if I had known some of what I know now when I was younger, I could easily see myself working for like the DNR or as a park ranger, or one of those groups that does outdoor tours on like whitewater rafting or climbing or any of those things, because I at that time I loved being outdoors, and I knew that I loved being outdoors, which is what actually got me into working with animals when I was younger. And but then life gets a hold of you, and you end up doing things that you have to support yourself and your family and all of that, and then you just kind of end up where you are, and then you're trying to find yourself again. It's like, it's interesting though. I like looking into these questions, because then I can go, okay, yeah, I have all these responsibilities, and I have all this stuff I have to do because of blah, blah, blah. And yet I know what recharges me. And I also know that when I get into this kind of, blah state of just feeling blah, I guess is the best word for it, is that I know I can take a break from my office stuff, and I can just go and do some kind of physical activities that involves organizing, or organizing is probably the best way. That, or do some activity outside where, I'm taking care of the yard or doing whatever, I know I can do those things, and that kind of gives me a little recharge. So, or sitting quietly and doing absolutely nothing. That's another one I really enjoy doing, and could do that for a long time too. So.
But
I,
it's,
Oh, that was an
oh,
option, sitting quietly. I'd say sleeping would be probably my zone of excellence and genius.
I was gonna say, sorry, Lori. I'll let you go first, and then I'll jump out.
I would say that too. That's my but makes me sleepy all the time, and I spend plenty of time alone and quiet, and I don't think it's necessarily my zone of genius, but my perspective on my whole situation that could, most people or a lot of people could get really depressed and that type of thing. And I've had to accept a lot of things in my living situation, that I made my bed and now I have to lie in it, and just circumstances has me here. And every time I've tried to make a move to go somewhere else, something happens. The elevator broke, you can't leave. The weather, you can't go out right now because of my other limitations. So no matter what, I seem to be like, no, you stay there and you have to be happy about it, because my friends that are more hyperactive and that ADD totally would go berserk on this whole thing. And I said, it's one of those things you can't change. Nothing you can do about it. So learning acceptance and just really forcing me to sit and be still and think about things. I don't like it.
But that leads me into a little bit of what the second question says. It says, what work do I do that doesn't seem like work? I can do it all day long without ever feeling tired or bored. And I think 1 and 2 kind of need to go hand in hand. And in that, in finding that thing that we do, like, and I'm going to throw this at you, Samantha, you love organizing things. Well, you could become a professional organizer for people with businesses, offices, homes, things like that, help them with garage spaces. I think sometimes we let the but be the biggest thing that stops us. And because our brains and our capabilities and what we have out there, and I'm hoping Catherine, agrees with me on this, because I think we get so afraid and so scared of how am I going to pay for this, that, and the other thing, because we've had that drilled into us that you have to worry about that first. But look at a lot of the people that have found their way of finding their zone of excellence and doing what they love, and they make good money at what they do, and everything else takes care of itself. And that's my thought. I don't know. That's why I said I'm hoping Catherine, because I turn to her for a lot of what, her understanding of things is. I really think she has a better grip on a lot of some of this than we do. But that's the thing that's coming up in me right now. It's really, I hate to admit this, it's rearing its ugly head at me like, okay, so why have you let things get in your way?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I can see a long trail of things that I let get in my way, and but it's funny. I mean, we tend to do that, and I it's like I could see if it was just me, you know, it would be different, because if it was just me, I only have me to consider, my own feelings, my own wants, desires, and all of that. It would be different. I would still be living in a camper if it was just me, and still be sitting quietly by the pond at the campground, a campground somewhere, and reading books and doing videos on my thoughts about books. And I'd still be doing this, because this is something I really enjoy doing. And but it's not just about me. And that's the hard part, is trying to find a balance between what, and like I said, if we had known back when we were younger, and then aligned ourselves with similar people, or similar, you know, people that have the same ideas about life, then it would be different. But I didn't do that. And I'm not saying I regret my life by any means. I certainly don't. We've had a heck of an adventure, and it has been, there's been a lot of enjoyable parts about it. But it's interesting to look back on my life and go, you know, if I had only known, then I might have gone in this other direction, and then I would be living more in my zone of excellence relating to that. But now the question comes is that, you know, how do I take what we're talking about here and create spaces for myself in my life, within the life that I have, that allows me to you know, live in my zone of excellence for my own personal desires and well-being, but yet also be a part of the rest of my family and what they want as well. You know, it's a balance, right? So, and as much as Dan, as much as I, you know, completely respect what you're saying, because I mean, I can look at what you guys say, oh, I really love this or that, and I can be like, oh, well, you could be doing this. I completely respect what you're saying, but I don't want to work with people. You know, so I'm like, if I would have to, like, I don't know, make it into a YouTube channel where I just organize stuff and show people how to do it, and not have to do it for anyone else. Here, I'm showing you, you just take it and do with it as you please. You know? I know that, I mean, I don't know what it sounds like, but it is what it is.
Okay, I'm gonna go there. um, because you deal with people pretty much day in and day out. We all deal with people day in and day out. And the fact that there are lots of times I really just want to shut the world out and tell them to go F off and leave me alone, let me do my thing. That's something that we don't have that true capability to do. You know, we have to learn that. And I think that's part of dealing with our zone of excellence, is learning to finagle those uncomfortable things in order to reach what we want and what we desire, and what God, infinite intelligence, the universe, however you look at it, has placed in us. And I think that's something that we all have, and it's there, and I think for most of it's pretty strong. We've just have been the ones that have quashed it, quelled it, pushed it down, said no because of all the things we've been told, taught, learned, picked up, our own fears. And I think that's another, and I'm going to say it, I think it's another big but that we all have. Because if there were lots of times when I don't have to deal with people, I'd love it. Go away, just, you know, but I don't, especially, you know, being an Uber driver, I've learned to, you know, I'm learning better to shut my mouth sometimes and not say things when I really want to say things.
I love people too, but there I said again, but I'm not sure.
We're going to have to do just a funny, we've got big butts kind of short thing. And then we could say, I love to do this, but, or I, whatever, you know, it would be really funny and hilarious and probably get a lot of likes or whatever, shorts or reels or whatever gets.
I was thinking, got a butt on every side.
Well, I think as kids, I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian because I love animals so much. But then as I got older, I realized that veterinarians, I understood the reality of being a veterinarian and all of the things that they have to deal with and putting animals down just because people don't want them anymore, not because of their health or, they play God a lot. And I actually decided that I could be meaner to people. That's why I went into nursing, which is kind of sad when you think about it. Since I worked with babies, I was never intentionally mean to babies, but I did do a lot of mean stuff to babies, actually, unfortunately, trying to keep them alive. But, I think it's interesting that all of us sort of answer the first question as if it relates to work. We qualify it not only that I'd like to do that, but I'm not healthy enough or whatever, but then we also qualify it in, but I can't make money at that. When that question had nothing to do with that, it just asks us what we love to do. We're so money focused. Are we money focused or are we lack focused? That's more the question, I guess. Are we driven by an excitement to have abundance and share it, or are we driven by fear of not having enough to pay the bills or not being able to, meet our financial? I think that has a huge impact. And I think that's part of the difference between the zone of excellence and the zone of genius. And I agree with you, Dan. There are, when you look at the big bigs, the people with the, I don't know how many, I don't know what's after a trillion, but these people got the bucks. When you look at these people, these are free thinking people. These are people that thought up the computer in their basement, and Elon Musk putting people in space, and all of the stuff that he does, and like, these people are dreamers, which takes us into the next question. In my work, what produces the highest ratio of abundance and satisfaction to amount of time spent? Now, my first question with this question is, how are we defining the word abundance there? Is that an abundance of wealth, or is that an abundance of satisfaction? Or since it says satisfaction, maybe it is pointing more towards wealth. But what produces the highest ratio of abundance and satisfaction to amount of time spent? Now, this is the thing where I go on the big butt rails, because doing art, you can get lost. I can get lost creating a piece of artwork. Like, I may start the day wanting to make I don't know, some kind of post about something that I want to talk about. And it could take me all day to find like the right images I want to use, and this, that, and the other. So I'm not very time efficient in that zone, I guess is what I'm saying. And this is a problem for me because I live in this zone all the time, you guys. Like, I never know what day it is. I only know if it's day or night because there's sunlight or not, but I can start a project and be like completely enveloped and not eat, drink, pee, do nothing. And then like 8 hours later, I'm like, holy shit, I come out of my I come out of my stupor and, maybe I have something beautifully creative there. Most of the time I do. It's not complete time wasted, but as far as how much money did I make that day, we're still sitting at zero. You know what I mean? Because that I may have created something beautiful, but now I still have to market it and sell it. So there's a lot of buts that can come in here. The clarification on this question is, even if I do only 10 seconds or a few minutes of it, an idea or a deeper connection may spring forth that leads to huge value. Now that clarifying that question with that takes me back into my zone of genius being art and creativity, because when I'm in that zone, that's when I get those invention ideas. I get invention ideas all the time. And that's when I get them. It's not when I'm sitting there doing something that I hate doing that those ideas come in. I have to kind of be in that zone of loving what I'm doing for those ideas to come in. I have to be open. And when you're doing something that you aren't liking to do, not wanting to do, there's a natural resistance that sort of closes our energetic field and doesn't allow for that communication to come through. And, where exactly that communication is coming from, none of us know. Even if whoever it is gives us a name of who they are that they're talking to us, we still don't know who that is, in reality, because it could be data up there, talking to us or something using somebody else's name. But Samantha, you're on here a lot all of a sudden. I don't know what happened. But this zone of genius where you get your ideas from, and you're really connected to your higher self or creator or the angels or whoever is we're communicating with. It takes that openness for those messages or for the symbolism, however they communicate with you, for you to even notice that. Because if you're so caught up in, doing this, like for me, the taxes, I just hate taxes. So if I'm so involved in taxes, I'm not going to notice that beautiful cardinal sitting out the window that's trying to tell me to relax and chill out,
I think you have a big jump compared, I think, to a lot of us, because I think you understand what does when you're in that zone, or what works for you to be able. I think, for a lot of us, we don't realize that we're open when we're open, and sometimes I've had things where I've had things come to me and it's like, oh, that's a cool idea, or that's neat, or I love to see how that could play out, but then I don't remember what I was doing in the minute of when that came, and then it get all convoluted, and then it kind of moves off and I forget about it. And I think that's, for me, I think part of the challenge of, okay, when am I the most open? When is it that I'm in that, and I don't want to use zone, but in that time where I'm most happy and at peace and open to everything and everything, compared to when I'm focused on what I'm having to do, and the next task I have to get done, and this and that and the other thing, because it's in my mind. And it was funny, as we were talking, I was realizing that one of the things I love to do, and I could sit there, is, it's weird, I do this weird doodle, and it's the best way I can describe it is, to me, if I look at it, it looks like a bunch of intestines, the way I just doodle this and stuff, but I get lost in it. I can just sit there and do that for hours, and in my mind, sometimes I'm think I'm trying to create something out of that. But then after I'm done, I'm like, where's the picture that I was trying to create? But for me, it's, in that time where I just kind of lose sense and enjoy it. And the other thing I've learned is I go to a coloring class that's offered through my church. It's one of our small groups. And we just go there and color and just spend time together and talk and, whatever comes up, we talk and share what's going on. But everybody else, it seems like they can color a picture just about in the time of the class. Me, there's been one picture where I started it like when we first started this, like I think a year and a half ago. I've yet to have it finished because I'm so in my head. I have such a picture and idea of what I want it to look like. But each time I have to go back and kind of get that feel, and I have to look and wait and get an idea of what the colors I really want for this picture to have. And it's taken me forever to get it done. But when I show what I've done to everybody, they've all loved it and thought it was really, pretty and beautiful. But there are times where I feel like I'm taking forever to get this one stupid picture finished. But I don't want to rush it either. I want it to be, and I tell people, I said, I have a picture of what I want it to look like in my head. But each time I come, I have to kind of get back in that zone. And it's weird, but I can get into it. And I just kind of do my thing and I chit chat and stuff. But, a lot of times they're talking and I'm kind of more focused on what I'm doing. So it's interesting how when you get in those times, you can kind of lose track of things too.
I used to get invention ideas when I was driving too. When like I had got a trip to the airport or something when I was Ubering and I just had a long empty drive back or whatever, I could just kind of zone out. I get some good ideas there. So let's move on to this last question. Obviously, we're not going to do any reading today, but the last question was, what is my unique ability? I think this is a really challenging question myself. Because again, my brain wants to qualify this question with what is my unique ability that I can use to make money and support myself? Like, it's so horrible that I can't just answer a stupid question. What is my unique ability? Well, obviously my unique ability is helping people pass from this life to the next. That's my God-given unique ability. And I got that one whether I wanted it or not. I mean, I'm sure that I planned for it before I came into this life. But I mean, that wasn't something that I chose and honed and all of that. And I think that's the kind of ability they're talking about here. This isn't a skill. They're not asking what is my unique skill. It's what is my unique ability. So what did you guys come up with for that?
I think aptitude is the big word here. What is in me, in my blood, whatever, to make me have this aptitude, which I'm still looking for. I have a great, my excellence is in taking care of a home and keeping everything just right. And I have lots of reasons why I understand why I do that, but that's not my zone of genius. So aptitude is a big factor.
I don't know if this is an ability or not, but I'm not like you are, Catherine, but I love helping people look at both sides of things. I love playing devil's advocate in a sense, I love showing that, okay, but what if you look at it from this point of view? What if you helping people see that? And I tend to do that a lot of times with people, because then I think in my head, I want them to be able to see and look at everything the most objectively and hopefully come up with the best solution for them to move forward without giving them the right answer, but just say, hey, kind of like when I played devil's advocate with you there for a minute there, a little bit ago. I love doing that. And I don't mean it to be mean with anybody or to look down or, make somebody feel bad. And I admit I don't appreciate it when people do that back to me, because then it's like, yeah, but I don't like that thought or that feeling. But I think it's something that people forget to do, is to, step outside of themselves sometimes and look at everything from a peer point of view rather than while you're in it. But it's hard when you're in it. That's the converse thing. Like for me, when I'm in it, it's like, no, I don't want to look at it. I'm in it. I want it, So I think I think that's something I feel that's part of me and is unique in me, even though there are other people that have that ability too.
I just wanted to read the little qualifier after this question, in case that would help anybody. So what is my unique ability? There's a special skill I'm gifted with. This unique ability, fully realized and put to work, can provide enormous benefits to me and any organization I serve. That helps anybody get there.
And I'll hop out. One of my good abilities is to just be quiet and, and let other people sort things out on their own. But I'm really good at helping people facilitate their own ideas, and then helping them along, sort of contributing to areas that might actually compound the value within what they're already doing, without like completely changing what they're doing. But that's kind of been a learned thing, because if I'm in the mix to begin with, I might think of a completely different way to tackle it. So it's a learned ability. It's not something that I was kind of born with. I have to say, in a lot of these questions, I could see where, we're looking at them from the perspective that we are, where we are now, not like who we have always been. And, so we're already qualifying them as to what are we able to do now for long periods of time? What do we still enjoy, even though it may not be, making us money, because we're all, when we're young, we would probably be like, well, this is what I want to do. When later on we're told, well, you got to pick something that you can make money at. So we sort of like, well, what can I make money at that I still love to do? And so I think that's why we end up kind of getting into that mode of thought. But like for the third question, what work that creates the most satisfaction for me, what part of the work that creates satisfaction for me is the review process, where I'm finalizing things and kind of crossing the T's and dotting the I's, so to speak. And that way I'm looking back on what I've created, and I'm both enjoying it and preparing it for I'm enjoying what I've created, and I'm preparing it for presentation. and I'm able to put the final touches on it. But that's not to say that I haven't learned to enjoy the process, and that I don't get lost in the process just as much. It's just that I feel like for the time spent, that it's probably the most enjoyable part of it, because I get to see everything I've been working on kind of come together. And then, so the unique ability is kind of like, for me, it's kind of like to be a very, be a big part of a project, but at the same time, be able to step out of it, watch it grow and try to and understand where everyone's coming from and what they want to accomplish, and then sort of just add to it in a way that still allows everyone to have a say and see their one. It would be, and so I think, where did I wrote something down here in regards to what it was that I believe I do. Oh, so I think maybe it was one of the final questions you were asking last time was, to finish the sentences. I'm at my best when I'm, I'd say, heading a team project, because then I have that ability to both contribute and then also step back and just listen and let it unfold. So that's kind of where I am with that. But I do see that in all of that, it may not even be scratching the surface of the types of things that I would love to do when I was just a kid, because as a kid, I loved, adventuring out there into nature. I loved being out on the boat and just kind of letting the day kind of predict where I'd go, and searching and kind of going on little adventures, just seeing what was out there and learning new things, whether it was on the water or in the woods, or there was always something new visually and aesthetically that was just so wondrous. And I was, so a little bit like you, Samantha, being loving nature, and also like you, Dan, loving the scenery and the different environment. And then also a lot like you, Catherine, where I'm, have this pull to be an artist, because I mean, at a young age, that's where what I thought I would love to be an artist. And then when they came to a career, it was like, well, what can I do that I could draw at the same time? And then it became like, well, I could be an architect, because then I could draw buildings and create the buildings and then watch it come to, so and that was at like in 4th grade that I was like thinking about that, trying to figure out. So these types of questions and deep understandings about ourselves start to evolve at such a young age. This has just been very enlightening, very, has uncovered a lot and covered a lot. I appreciate the discussion. It's so interesting. So I think y'all have so much potential, and it's interesting that we do allow our our big butts to get in the way, and yeah, maybe I mean, there's so many these other questions too. I have to go back to this real quick. It was in the beginning of the book, or not the beginning of the book, but the last passage that you read last week. In the very beginning, he talks about how the lady was loved to sit down and I guess you like write, or sort of artistic endeavor, but she had to have the house clean and everything beforehand. And then they looked at that as an or a limiting belief that she had to get that other stuff done beforehand. But to me, a lot of times I use that sort of like the things that I like to do, put them at the end of the the end of the schedule, because it's something that I'm working towards and it's sort of a reward. So I thought that was interesting that, maybe we, in a way, we can sort of end up using, or maybe maybe that's a misinterpretation, or sometimes we end up using our putting our big butts in the way in order to enjoy the other things more fulfillingly. So I just had to put that out there. Sorry I went on for so long. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you for bringing that back up, because that was the exact thing that caught my attention last week's reading, is that's exactly what I do. My butt's gotten in the way that their limiting beliefs are my reality, in the same way that my childhood, whatever, I got into the excellence part of making everything just right, and everything's brought on the whole idea of being a perfectionist, and I do manage my household to a perfection. The towels have to be just folded just right on the rod, and got to have everything just so, which I can see could make visitors nervous. Oh my gosh, I can't move that. It might mess up this whole picture, because I think I did that because my childhood was my inner child is so damaged from all of that I have carried with me all these years. And if I didn't do it just right, I wouldn't be accepted and loved by my parents. And every child wants that acceptance and love from their parents, even dysfunctional as my parents were. It's a really difficult thing. And so with these limitations, I'm pretty much left with being a writer, and writers write. And I do that the last thing after I have all the chores done and all of that. And Samantha, I caught myself 3 or 4 times. Oh, I got to organize these pictures. I can't make any sense out of them. I didn't do it. And it's still on the back of my mind. Oh, I got to get that cleaned up so I can find the pictures I want. And it's craziness. It's been a great conversation.
That makes sense to me.
I just threw in the chat, you would hate my house. Especially my office right now. It's a horrible mess, and I even hate it. But
no, I don't have to live there, so I wouldn't hate it. Sure.
But if you visited, you would hate it. And for me, the one thing that kind of hit me was when I went to a friend's house one time, and I went in their house, and they had everything covered in plastic. Everything felt so spick and span, and it almost made me think of a hospital. I'm just like, I felt like I couldn't sit down on anything. I couldn't touch anything. I felt like I couldn't live. Even being there, I felt like I couldn't live, for fear of breathing on something that, they might walk in and say, oh, how dare you breathe on this? It moved. That's just something I don't ever want I don't want people to ever feel like that when they come into my house. I don't want anybody to think that it has to be so perfect. So, but that's not me.
Yeah.
That's you, and I can understand.
I'm not that bad.
but that just overwhelmed me. It just made me feel, oh, it's like, do they ever have people over? Do they ever just enjoy and have fun or relax? And that kind of hit me the other way to where I like a clean house. I like things where they belong, but I don't go crazy either, you know. But I also hate it when people move things that I have places in certain spots. I absolutely hate it when they move it, because they think, okay, I'll move it over here and it's like, well, where'd you put that? I know it was right here. It was right there. I put it there. I know it was there. Where'd it go? So even I have my weird methodologies to my madness and how I do things. And it's weird how we get so caught up in all that and how they become those big butts, old limiting beliefs, whatever. And it's hard for us to function outside of all that. So it's interesting. This conversation has really been eye-opening in a lot of ways. So love everybody's input and what everybody said, because it helped me think a little bit more about me and some of the things, how I respond and how I act with things too. And some of them I don't like, and some of them I'm like, I'm okay with, but others it's like, I want to make changes, but it's like, okay, how do I make those changes too?
Yeah, and how do we make the change by leaping rather than hopping, as the author mentioned? So really interested in learning more.
You would bring that part up, Jason, about hopping. I do plenty of hopping, but
I love you, Lori. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Did we run out of stuff to talk about? Are we just wrapping up for today? That was a good chat.
Tough to even find a place to stop, to tell you the truth, because there's a lot.
Yeah. I know we could keep going on and on. Now, this has been a really insightful conversation, because I can look at it and go, okay, well, I have these ideas of what I think I'm maybe good at, or maybe, what my abilities are. And, but then I can look back over my life and see how each of those kind of things played out, or how they were expressed in my life. And then the buts that I put in the way, it's like, Dan, you mentioned all these different things about nature and in the chat, you mentioned truck driver and you talked about music and all of these things. And I can see a lot of different aspects of many of the things that I've done over the years that are some kind of physical labor of some sort, whether that was driving a truck or working with dogs, or, when I first got out into the work world, I worked at a Subway, and it was the physical aspect of all the different things I did at the Subway. I felt like I was just like, could get on task, stay on task, get things done, and then when I went from there and went into, well, I guess it was before that, I was a volunteer at the zoo, and it was scoop and poop of all things, but I was happy doing it because it was a thing. It was outside and I was doing a task. And so it's kind of like, I'm thinking about, it's not so much about organizing, it's about doing these physical tasks. But where I get hung up, where my butts come into place is I love doing it until someone says I have to. Or someone says you have to do it X number of days a week, or I have to commit to doing it all the time. And then all of a sudden I don't want to do it, So for me, it's kind of like, it's like I said, I was organizing my garage and I was just enjoying doing the work, but the idea of having to translate that into a money-making thing it ruins it for me, So I'm like, I could see my, where my natural ability and my things where I'm like the happiest is when I'm just doing a physical task. I'm outside enjoying nature while I'm doing it, and I'm in my own thoughts, and I don't have to do it for any specific lengths of time, and I don't have to do the same thing every day. It's like if I could do something different every single day in some kind of labor aspect, whether it's inside or outside, and it was not, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't a thing that was my livelihood, or it didn't have to get done. Then that's where I'm happiest. So I love this book and the fact that it talks about us getting out of our own way so we can be in our zone of genius and be, successful in life. But yet at the same time, I'm like, when I was living in the camper, it didn't have anything to do with money. I was perfectly happy in our old camper and not making any money very much. I mean, it was enough to survive, and just doing what I wanted to do in any given moment. And that was not the same every day. It was different. And so it's this, we have to support ourselves because of the way that our world, our culture, and everything else is set up. But yet our zone of happiness, if you will, may be completely different from that. And I think if we recognize that, then yeah, we can do both. We can be like, okay, I can do this thing that makes me money, and I can be mostly happy doing, I used to tell, I think I told the kids when they were younger, I was like, it's not about finding something to do for the rest of your life. It's about finding something you can do for an extended period of time so that you can support yourself. And you can always change that thing and do something different. And if you can enjoy it for a while, great. And if you're one of those people who can find a method of work that is in your zone of happiness, then that's even better. But if you can't, if you're like me or like so many people where, the same thing over and over, day after day after day is so friggin' boring, even if it is something you like, it, I don't know. I think it's a way, it's like doing a little bit of both. So I don't know. That's my thoughts anyway.
That's the thing. I always have this Groundhog Day. Everything is so mundane and I just can't stand it. Drives me nuts. I want something different, and trying to get something different just keeps slapping me in the face. Nope, you sit down there and you be quiet and you be happy and just accept it. It's like I can't let the weather get me upset because there's nothing I can do about it. Not being able to change things is a huge task. Just sit there and accept it. Love you guys.
Love you too, Lori. Yeah, it's sometimes just being still and listening, that can certainly be, and realizing our limitations and trying to fit within what our limitations are can be just as difficult as pushing ourselves outside of our box. But it was so it was just fun. It was fun listening to everybody today. I really each time I come on here, I get to learn a little bit more about you and a little bit more about myself, and I get some great ideas and stuff. And I have a couple things I want to share with you after the live. Our conversations are always so amazing as well, for at least a few minutes when we stay on, and I'll share them with you then.
You brought up a great point, Samantha, and that is that sometimes our zone of genius or someplace, something that we feel like we could do for hours and hours and hours, that if we do try to turn that into a work and then we're forced to do it, day after day after day, it quickly becomes something that we despise. So, but across all of that is always our choices. We have to remember we always have choices. So whether we're doing something we love, whether we're doing something we hate, we still have the choice we can either, sit there and be doing it and, oh, I hate this, and being focused on how much you hate it and how hard it is and all of that. Or you can focus on, you can find one thing about it that you enjoy, and you can focus on that good aspect of it, even if the only good thing you can find is that doing that helps you do this other thing that you love to do. And this happened to me with painting back when I used to do acrylic painting, physical painting. I do digital painting now, but I did painting, and I thought, oh, I can do this and I can sell enough pieces, and then I was painting 16 hours a day, day after day after day. And it got to where one day I put the paintbrush down and I said, that's it. I'm not painting anymore. I just hated it so much. And how could you hate painting? It sounds ridiculous even when I say it, but at the time, because of my mindset, and instead of focusing on, oh, this is something that allows me to stay home with my son, which is the goal. I was trying to find work I could do from home, stay home with my son, because my daughter had to spend so much time in daycare. I was trying not to do that again. But instead of focusing on, yes, this allows me to stay home with my son, and this allows me to not have to, go do a 9 to 5. I don't have to get out of my pajamas if I don't, there's lots of good things that I could have been focusing on, but I wasn't. I was focusing on how much I hated painting. I put the paintbrush down. I still haven't picked up paintbrushes again. That's been decades, my son is in his 40s now, I think, so, or close to it. So yes, I did, I went on to do airbrushing, and I did some other types I didn't just give up artwork, and now I'm doing digital painting, which is funny because as a kid, I could color for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And now I do digital painting, which is basically coloring, you guys. Like it's totally coloring. So, and I started with dog portraits, and I didn't think I could do it, but I said, how do you know if you can't do it unless you try to do it? Like there's so many things that we don't even try. We just tell ourselves we can't do it. So I think sometimes there are things that we love so much that we have to protect those things and not do them in excess so that they stay special, kind of like eating certain foods at Christmas or whatever, like that's what makes them so special, because we only get them once or twice a year or whatnot. So that's a really good point you brought out. And I think, Lori, you and we so totally get each other. And some of the things that I'm dealing with in my life are so frustrating. But again, I have the choice to focus on whether it's frustrating or to focus on the good aspects of it. It always comes down, I can be happy regardless of the situation. I really can. Whether I can pull something from that, the current situation may be so horrible that I can't pull anything from there, but I always have a memory of something good that I can go back to and be happy. So it is always a choice, you guys. And I hope that we all make really good choices this week. I love you.
I just have appreciated everybody has said, and love what everybody has brought out. And yeah, this book really is just helping bring things to the forefront. I think we all have been looking for, searching for, needing, And it always seems like the book always shows up when we need the book at the right time. We never get the books at the wrong time. I will say that. It seems like they always come when we need them. And so with that, looking forward to, continued conversation as hopefully we get into chapter 5 next week. This has just been really one of those awesome conversations because we've gone on for what, an hour and a half now, and I'm sure this group, we could go on literally all day and not extinguish the subject, and just it's amazing what we all can bring out. And so love you all and look forward to next week.
Yes, absolutely. Good chat, guys. And I love how we kind of went all over the place with this topic, because I mean, we talked about, our things that come up for us that we think we're good at and that we enjoy, and that, but then we also talked about, how our butts get in the way, right? And how our thought patterns make a difference, and all of that. So I love having everybody on here, and we have these different insights, and they're able to learn from each other. So it's wonderful. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. If you're out there and you're watching and you've made it this far, then by all means, click like on this video if you're on YouTube, and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to get more of it. And if you want to participate, we'd love to have you. All you got to do is search for us on Facebook, look for Mindset Mastery Collective. You can get on our Facebook group. And actually, if you go to SaturdayMorningMastermind.com, it'll take you to a page that tells you how to join every week. And I don't know why I don't ever mention that, because I forget about it. But yeah, anyway, you can join us every week. It's the same Zoom link to get in here, 10 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. And we'd love to have you. So with that, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing week. We'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.